I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. On New Year's Eve, my daughter-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "Elizabeth, we're putting you in a nursing home. You're too old to be useful anymore." I was 75 years old, and in that moment I realized my own son agreed with her. He wouldn't even look at me. What they didn't know was that I had options, a house they knew nothing about, savings I'd hidden, and a chance encounter that night would change everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. The champagne was flowing downstairs. I could hear Emily's high-pitched laugh cutting through the music, the clink of glasses, the murmur of conversation. Their New Year's Eve party was in full swing. I sat on the edge of my bed in the guest room, my room for the past 3 years, and stared at my hands. They were shaking. Not from age, though I was 75. From shock. 30 minutes earlier, Emily had knocked on my door. Not a gentle knock. 3 sharp raps that made me jump. "Elizabeth, we need to talk about your future. Not Mom, not even Elizabeth can we chat. Just that cold clinical statement. We need to talk about your future." She'd stood in my doorway, champagne glass in hand, wearing a dress that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in 3 months. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Her makeup was perfect. She looked like she was posing for a magazine. "William and I have found a place for you," she'd said. "Oak Ridge Senior Living. It's very nice. Clean. They have activities." My throat had gone dry. "A place for me. A nursing home." She'd said it like she was discussing the weather. "We need the space. William's getting a home office set up and we can't keep giving up the guest room. The boys need a playroom." I'd looked past her, hoping to see my son. William had been standing in the hallway, but he was staring at his phone. His jaw was tight. "William," my voice had cracked. "Is this what you want?" He'd glanced up, then away. "Mom, it makes sense. You need proper care at your age." "I don't need care. I'm healthy. I cook, I clean, "You're 75, Emily interrupted. "Let's be realistic. We're doing what's best for everyone." The conversation had lasted maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes to dismantle my life. Now I sat alone while they partied downstairs. The caterers they'd hired moved past my room. I could smell the expensive hors d'oeuvres I wasn't invited to eat. Earlier, someone had brought me a sandwich on a paper plate, like I was a child being punished. I looked around the small room, my whole life reduced to this space. Photographs on the nightstand. William as a gap-toothed 7-year-old, William graduating college. William's wedding, where Emily had called my dress quaint, in a tone that meant something else entirely. The quilt my mother had made covered the bed. It was the only thing of real value I'd allowed myself to keep. Everything else I'd sold, given away, or left behind when I'd moved in with them. That's what you do when you're a widow. When your son insists you shouldn't be alone. When you believe family is supposed to take care of each other. I'd been so grateful 3 years ago, so relieved not to be alone in that empty house after my husband died. William had said all the right things. "You shouldn't be by yourself, Mom. We have plenty of room. The boys would love having Grandma around." The first year had been good. I'd helped with the boys' cooked meals, made myself useful. But then Emily got pregnant with their 3rd child, and something shifted. I became less helpful grandmother and more unpaid servant. The 2nd year, they'd started having adults-only dinner parties. I'd eat in my room while I heard laughter downstairs. Emily's friends would brush past me like I was furniture. This 3rd year, I'd become invisible. The boys, Jackson 8 and Lucas 6, barely spoke to me anymore. Emily had told them Grandma was old-fashioned and didn't understand their generation. Never mind that I'd been a teacher for 37 years. Never mind that I'd raised a successful son. I opened my nightstand drawer. Inside was an envelope I hadn't looked at in years. The deed to my parents' house in Millbrook. When they'd died 8 years ago, they'd left me the house. A small cottage 2 hours north. I'd thought about selling it, but something had stopped me. Some instinct telling me to keep one thing that was just mine. William didn't know about it. I'd never mentioned it. He'd been so stressed about his own mortgage at the time, and I hadn't wanted to burden him with managing another property. Now I pulled out the deed and stared at it. The house was paid off. It had been maintained by a property management company, minimal fees, just enough to keep it from falling apart. I'd been paying for it out of my Social Security before William had convinced me to put my benefits into a joint account for household expenses. My hands were still shaking as I reached for the suitcase under my bed. the old floral one that smelled like mothballs and memories. I'd bought it for my honeymoon 50 years ago. Downstairs, someone turned up the music. I heard Emily's voice. Only 30 minutes until midnight. Who's ready for champagne? Nobody was counting down to my new year. Nobody would notice if I disappeared. I started packing. Clothes. Not many. I didn't have many. Most of what I owned was outdated, according to Emily. She'd thrown away my favorite cardigan last month. Said it was ratty. It had been hand-knitted by my mother. Toiletries. Photographs. The quilt, I folded it carefully, pressing my face into the soft fabric. It still smelled faintly like my mother's perfume. A small wooden box containing my wedding ring, some old letters, the last birthday card my husband had given me before the heart attack. I'd taken off the wedding ring after he died. Hadn't been able to bear wearing it. My checkbook, my social security card, the deed to the Millbrook house. And one more thing, a small savings account book. William and Emily didn't know about this one. It was at a different bank, opened before I'd moved in with them. Inside $3,400. Not much, but it was mine. Birthday checks from my late sister, a few dollars squirreled away each month before William had started helping me manage my finances. The hardest part was the note. I sat at the small desk by the window and tried to find words that weren't bitter. I failed. I won't be a burden anymore. Don't look for me. I hope your party is everything you wanted. Elizabeth. I left it on the bed and picked up my suitcase. The hallway was empty. Everyone was in the backyard watching William set up the fireworks display. I could see them through the window, Emily in her designer dress, the boys running around with sparklers, William adjusting the launch tubes. 3 years ago, I would have been out there with them. Now I wasn't even invited. I walked down the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. The front door was unlocked. I opened it and stepped into the cold December night. Nobody noticed. Nobody called my name. I was already gone. The Greyhound station was nearly empty. Most people were home with their families. Real families. The kind that wanted you there. I sat on a plastic chair bolted to the floor and checked the schedule board with trembling hands. One bus to Millbrook, 11:30 p.m. It was 9:47 now. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making everything look sickly and surreal. A man slept across 3 chairs near the vending machines, his coat pulled over his face. A young couple argued in hushed Spanish by the ticket counter, and I sat alone watching the minutes tick by on the digital clock. Each minute took me further from the life I'd known. I'd bought my ticket with cash, $47 one way. The clerk had barely looked at me. Just another old woman going somewhere on New Year's Eve. My phone was in my purse, turned off. I couldn't bear to see if they'd noticed yet. Couldn't bear the messages that might come. Or worse, the silence if no messages came at all. The reality of what I'd done started sinking in. I'd run away. At 75 years old, I'd packed a suitcase and fled like a teenager. What was I doing? The house in Millbrook had been empty for years. It probably needed work. I had $3,400 to my name. I was too old to get a job, too proud to ask for help, too. That's when the tears came. Not quiet, dignified tears. Great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. The kind that come from somewhere deeper than sadness. From loss. From rejection. From the terrible understanding that the people you'd sacrificed everything for could look at you and see only an inconvenience. I tried to muffle the sounds with my hand, ashamed even now to take up space with my grief. "Ma'am, are you okay?" I looked up, my vision blurred. A young woman was crouching in front of me. She looked about 30, with kind brown eyes and dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore scrubs under her winter coat, a nurse maybe, or a medical technician. "I'm fine," the automatic lie everyone expects. "It's just been a difficult day." She didn't move. "You don't look fine. Can I call someone for you, family?" The word family made me laugh. A broken, ugly sound that scared us both. "No family," I managed. "Not anymore?" She sat down in the chair next to mine. Her presence was unexpected and oddly comforting. "I'm Sarah," she said. "I'm a social worker, and I'm pretty good at listening if you want to talk." A social worker. Of course. She probably dealt with desperate old women every day. Women like me who couldn't take care of themselves, who were burdens to their families, who, "My bus doesn't leave until 11:45, Sarah continued gently. "I've got time." Maybe it was her kindness. Maybe it was the accumulated loneliness of months, years. Maybe it was because she was a stranger, and strangers were safe. You could tell them the truth because you'd never see them again. Whatever the reason, I found myself talking. I told her about William and Emily, about the nursing home announcement on New Year's Eve, about the party I wasn't invited to, about 3 years of gradually becoming invisible in my own son's house. I told her about the meals eaten alone in my room, about Emily throwing away my mother's cardigan, about my grandsons who'd been taught to see me as outdated and embarrassing. I told her about the Millbrook house and my small savings, about running away because it was better than being warehoused in a facility I hadn't chosen. She listened without interrupting, her hand finding mine and holding it tight. When I finished, she asked, "Where did you teach? You mentioned being a teacher." The question surprised me. "Lincoln Elementary, from 1968 until I retired in 2005. Something flickered across her face. "Lincoln Elementary in this city, yes. Why?" She pulled out her phone. "I need to make a call. Is that okay? I promise you'll understand in a minute." I nodded, too drained to be curious. She walked a few steps away, her voice low but urgent. I caught fragments. "Dad, you need to hear this." "Yes, I'm sure." "Lincoln Elementary, 1968 through 2005. Dad, I found her." Found her? What was she talking about? Sarah returned, her eyes bright with something that looked like wonder. "Mrs. Harper, do you remember a student named Bobby Sullivan?" The name stirred something in my memory. Dust motes dancing in classroom sunlight. Small desks, crayon drawings. "There were so many children over the years," I said slowly. "He would have been in your class around 1975. His family had just immigrated from Ireland. His father had problems. Drinking problems. His mother worked multiple jobs." And then I remembered. Bobby Sullivan. A small boy with enormous dark eyes and shoes that were too tight. He'd come to school with holes in his clothes, and my heart had broken for him. His parents were proud people who wouldn't accept charity, but their son needed help. So I'd bought things myself. Not much. I was a teacher, not wealthy. Shoes that fit. A warm winter coat from the thrift store. Notebooks and pencils. I'd told Bobby they were extras, donations from other families, because I knew his parents' pride wouldn't allow direct help. And there had been more. Bruises I'd noticed, a boy too scared to go home, phone calls I'd made to child services, testimony I'd given in court to help place him with his grandmother. I'd done it because it needed doing, because a child shouldn't suffer for circumstances beyond his control. I'd never told anyone. Never thought of it as anything special. "You remember him?" Sarah said softly, watching my face. "I remember Bobby. Such a sweet boy. But I don't understand what, He's my father, and he's been looking for you for 30 years. The bus station tilted slightly. Reality shifted into something I couldn't quite grasp. "Your father," I repeated. "Bobby Sullivan is your father?" "Yes." Sarah squeezed my hand tighter. "He talks about you all the time. Mrs. Ed. Harper, the kindergarten teacher who changed everything. He's tried to find you for years, but you moved after you retired and the school district's records were, well, it was a long time ago. Different systems." "I just bought a little boy some shoes," I whispered. "You did so much more than that." Sarah's voice cracked. "You reported the abuse. You testified in court. You made sure he went to his grandmother instead of being put in the system with strangers. Do you know what that meant to him? To have one person who saw him and cared enough to act." The memories were clearer now. Bobby at 6 years old showing me a bruise on his arm. "I fell," he'd said, but his eyes had begged me to see the truth. I'd seen it, and I'd done something about it. "His grandmother raised him," Sarah continued. "She got custody, and he grew up safe. Got scholarships, went to college, became a lawyer. He helps families like his parents now, people who've been hurt by the system, kids who need advocates." "A lawyer?" I said, amazed. "A good one. He's not wealthy, but he's successful. He has a wife, 2 kids. He built this whole beautiful life." Sarah wiped her eyes. "And he's never forgotten you. Every year on the first day of school, he donates supplies to low-income students. Shoes, coats, backpacks. He calls it the Harper Fund, though it's anonymous. The Harper Fund, named after me, for something I'd done without thinking, without expecting anything, without remembering it as particularly significant until this moment. "Sarah, I can't." You don't have to say anything, just wait. He's coming. Coming here. He was at a dinner party when I called, but he left immediately. Mrs. Harper, you have no idea what this means to him. We sat in silence. The bus station's harsh lighting suddenly felt less hostile. The clock ticked toward 10. My bus would leave in an hour and a half. How did you recognize me? I asked. You weren't even born when I taught your father. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed me a photograph. A kindergarten class from 1975. Children arranged in rows. And there I was, 45 years younger, my hair dark instead of white, standing behind a group of 5-year-olds. Dad has this picture on his desk at work, Sarah explained. He's shown it to us 100 times, told stories about his teachers, especially you. When I saw you sitting here crying, something just clicked. The age was right, and there was something about your face. I had to ask. I stared at the photo. I remembered that day, remembered thinking how lucky I was to work with children. One of those children had carried me forward through decades, had built something good partially because I'd bought him shoes and made a phone call. I need to tell you something, Sarah said, her voice dropping lower. When I told Dad what happened to you tonight, what your son and daughter-in-law did, he was furious. I've never heard him that angry. A flutter of anxiety moved through my chest. I don't want to cause trouble. Mrs. Harper, you deserve better than being discarded. My father is a lawyer. He helps people who've been treated unjustly. He's going to want to help you. Before I could respond, the station doors opened. A man strode in with purposeful energy. He was about 50, of medium height, with graying hair and the kind of face that had been carved by both hardship and joy. He wore jeans and a sweater. He'd clearly left a party in a hurry. His eyes scanned the station and locked on to me. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the dingy space. Then he was walking toward me, and I was standing without meaning to, and 45 years were collapsing into nothing. Mrs. Harper, he said, and his voice broke on my name. Bobby, I whispered. Little Bobby Sullivan. Not so little anymore. He smiled, and there it was, the same sweet smile that used to light up when he understood a new concept. But yes, it's me. He stood before me, this grown man in his 50s, and I saw the 5-year-old boy overlaid on his features like a ghost, the same earnest expression, the same eyes. I can't believe Sarah found you, he said. After all these years, and here you are at a bus station on New Year's Eve. The reality of my situation came crashing back. Here I was, 75 years old, running away with a suitcase and $3,400. I must look pathetic. I'm sorry, I started. I'm just a foolish old woman. Stop. The word was firm but kind. You are not foolish. Sarah told me what happened, what your son and his wife did. His jaw tightened. You don't run anymore. Not from this. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You helped me when I had no one. When I was scared and hurt and didn't know who to trust. You saw me. You acted. You changed my entire life. He took a breath. Now it's my turn. Bobby's car was a 2015 Honda Accord Practical, not flashy. It made me feel oddly better. I'd half expected a luxury vehicle, something that would make me feel even more out of place. Sarah sat in the back with me, still holding my hand like she was afraid I might disappear. My wife Linda is going to cry when she meets you, Bobby said from the driver's seat as we pulled onto the highway. Fair warning, she's emotional about things like this. Things like what? I asked. Miracles, answered prayers, full circle moments. I didn't feel like a miracle. I felt like a scared old woman who'd run away from her problems. We drove through quiet streets. Most people were home preparing for midnight. In a few houses I could see party lights, people gathered around TVs waiting for the ball to drop. Tell me about your life, Bobby said. Sarah gave me the basics, but I want to hear it from you. What happened after you retired? So I told him. About teaching until 2005, about my husband dying 8 years ago, about William insisting I shouldn't be alone, about the slow erosion of my place in his household. And the nursing home. Bobby's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. They just announced it, no discussion. Emily said I was too old to be useful, that they needed the space. The words still stung. What did William say? That it made sense, that I needed proper care. I looked out the window at the passing streetlights. He wouldn't look at me when he said it. Bobby was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled. "Mrs. Harper, I'm a family law attorney. What you're describing might constitute elder abuse. At minimum, it's coercion. I don't want to cause problems. You're not causing anything. They did this." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Tonight, you're safe. That's all that matters." We pulled up to a modest apartment building. Not run down, but not fancy either. The kind of place where regular people lived. "I know it's not much," Bobby said, seeming to read my thoughts. "Linda and I were comfortable, but we're not rich. Social work and legal aid don't exactly pay millions." "Legal aid?" I asked. "I work for the Immigrant Justice Coalition, helping families like mine, people who get exploited who don't know their rights." He smiled. "Not as lucrative as corporate law, but it matters more." Sarah led me inside and up 2 flights of stairs. The hallway was clean and quiet. Bobby unlocked apartment 3C. "Linda's working a night shift at the hospital," he explained. "She's a nurse. But Sarah's going to get you settled in her room." The apartment was small but warm. 2 bedrooms, a living room with comfortable furniture and photos covering every surface. I caught glimpses of Bobby's life wedding photos, kids at various ages, family vacations. On the mantel in a silver frame was the kindergarten class photo from 1975. "You kept it," I said, touching the frame gently. "I've carried you with me for 45 years, Mrs. Harper. That picture goes everywhere I work." Sarah showed me to her room. "It's small, but it's clean. Bathroom's next door. I put out fresh towels." The room was indeed small, just a bed, a desk, and a dresser, but it was tidy and welcoming. A far cry from the guest room at William's house, but somehow better. Because here I wasn't a burden. I was wanted. "I can't take your room," I protested. "You can and you will," Sarah said firmly. "I'll sleep on the couch. It's actually really comfortable." After she left, I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process everything that had happened in the past few hours. At 8:00 p.m., I'd been in William's house being told I was going to a nursing home. Now it was almost midnight, and I was in the apartment of a man I'd helped as a child 45 years ago. My phone buzzed in my purse. I'd turned it back on out of guilt. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, 23 text messages. Most were from William. The earliest ones, time-stamped around 11:30 p.m., were confused mom. "Where are you?" "Your note wasn't clear." Then concerned mom, "Please call. We need to talk about this." Then, after midnight, panicked mom. "Who is this lawyer? What's going on? Call me immediately." Lawyer. "What lawyer?" Emily had sent exactly 2 messages. "This is very dramatic and unnecessary. You're embarrassing, William." Even now, even in crisis, she was thinking about appearances, about embarrassment. Not about the 75-year-old woman who'd fled into the night rather than be warehoused. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. There was a soft knock on my door. Bobby's voice. "Mrs. Harper, can I come in?" "Of course." He entered carrying a steaming mug. "Chamomile tea. Linda swears by it for stress." I took the mug gratefully. The warmth felt good in my hands. Bobby sat in the desk chair. "I need to be honest with you about something. When Sarah called me, I was angry. Really angry. At your son and his wife, at the whole situation." "Bobby, let me finish." He took a breath. "I called William about an hour ago." My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "I identified myself as your attorney and told him you were safe and under my protection. I indicated that there would be further communication regarding your situation. But you're not my attorney." "Not yet, but I'd like to be. Pro bono, of course." He leaned forward. "Mrs. Harper, what happened to you tonight isn't just wrong morally. It might be illegal. Financial exploitation, attempted unlawful institutionalization. I need to investigate. I don't want to sue my own son." "I'm not talking about suing. Not yet. I'm talking about getting you your rights, your money, your dignity." His voice softened. "You gave me those things when I was 6 years old. Please let me return the favor." I thought about William's panicked texts, about Emily's accusations of drama, about 3 years of making myself smaller and smaller. "What would you do?" I asked. "As my attorney." "First, I'd send them a formal letter requesting a full accounting of your finances. You said William manages your Social Security. It goes into a joint account for household expenses. Did you agree to that in writing?" "No. William just said it made sense." Bobby's expression hardened. And the money from your parents' house sale, the $65,000 you gave them for the down payment. Is your name on the deed? I paused. I don't know. William handled the paperwork. We'll find out. He stood. But not tonight. Tonight you rest. We'll deal with everything else tomorrow. After he left, I lay in Sarah's bed and stared at the ceiling. Down the hall, I could hear Bobby on the phone, his voice low and professional. At 1:00 a.m., my phone rang. William. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. I listened to it, my heart breaking with every word. Mom, please. Whatever this is, we can fix it. Just come home. Emily's just stressed she didn't mean it. We're not really going to put you in a home. It was just an idea. Please call me back. Please. Just an idea. As if that made it better. There were 2 more voicemails. Mom, who is Robert Sullivan? What's he told you? He's trying to turn you against your own family. Fine. If you want to do this, we'll do it. But remember who's been taking care of you. Remember whose family. The last one made me angry. Taking care of me, by isolating me, controlling my money, and planning to warehouse me. At 2:00 a.m., Sarah knocked softly and peeked in. Can't sleep. Too much going on in my head. She came in and sat on the edge of the bed. My dad's excited, you know. Not about your situation that makes him furious, but about finding you. He's been looking for so long. He really searched for me. Every year on his birthday, he'd spend a few hours trying different search methods. He found other teachers from Lincoln Elementary, but never you. I moved after I retired, sold my house to help William with his down payment. He said it made sense for us to pool resources. Sarah made a sound between a sigh and a growl. Let me guess. You gave him the money, and then he treated your presence like a favor he was doing you. The accuracy hurt. He's my son. I wanted to help. Helping is supposed to go both ways. It's supposed to be mutual respectful, not what they did to you tonight. We sat in silence for a moment. Sarah, I said quietly, what if this is all a mistake? What if I'm overreacting? Do you believe that? I thought about Emily's cold voice, about William's silence, about 3 years of slow erasure. No, I whispered. I don't. Then trust yourself. Trust Dad. We've got you. After she left, I finally fell asleep. I dreamed about kindergarten classrooms and small boys with worn-out shoes. I dreamed about the life I'd built and the life I'd lost. Previously on New Year's Eve, my daughter-in-law told me I was going to a nursing home. I ran away with just $3,400 and a suitcase. At the bus station, I met Sarah, whose father, Bobby, was a student I'd helped 45 years ago. He's now a lawyer, and he's furious about what my family did to me. But what I discovered next would change everything. I woke up to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came flooding back. The nursing home announcement, the bus station, Bobby Sullivan all grown up, Sarah's kindness. My phone showed 8:47 a.m., New Year's Day. I'd slept almost 10 hours, the deepest sleep I'd had in months. At William's house, I'd trained myself to wake early, to be quiet during the family's morning routine, to make myself invisible. Here, no one had woken me. No one had needed me to disappear. A soft knock came at the door. Mrs. Harper, are you awake? Yes, come in. A woman entered carrying a breakfast tray. She was around my age with silver-streaked hair and warm brown eyes. She wore an apron over jeans and a sweater. I'm Linda, she said, setting the tray on my lap. Bobby's wife. I'm so sorry I missed you last night. Night shift at the hospital. The tray held coffee-fresh fruit toast with butter and jam and a small vase with a single daisy. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Linda sat in the desk chair. Bobby told me everything. I've been crying on and off since 4 a.m. when I got home. I don't want to be a burden. Stop. Her voice was gentle but firm. That word is banned in this house. You're not a burden. You're a guest. Actually, you're more than that. You're family. My throat tightened. You don't even know me. I know what you did for Bobby. I know you saved his life when he was 6 years old. I know my husband has been searching for you for 30 years. She reached over and squeezed my hand. That's enough for me. Through the door, I could hear voices, Bobby's low rumble and Sarah's lighter tone. Bobby's been on the phone since 7, Linda said. He called your son last night around 11:30. William called back this morning at 7:15. They've been talking for over an hour. My stomach clenched. Is he angry, William, I mean? I think panicked would be more accurate. Linda's expression was carefully neutral. When a lawyer calls and says he's representing your mother, it tends to inspire concern, especially when you were planning to institutionalize that mother against her will. The words felt like a slap. Against her will. That's what it was, wasn't it? They hadn't asked. They'd told me. I didn't want this, I said quietly. I didn't want lawyers and threats and fighting. What did you want? The question stopped me. What had I wanted? Not the bus station, not running away in tears, not hiding. I wanted to matter, I finally whispered. I wanted my son to see me as something other than a burden. Linda nodded slowly. Then that's what we're going to get you. Not through revenge, through boundaries and consequences. She stood and gestured to the tray. Eat your breakfast, take a shower. Bobby wants to talk to you when you're ready. No rush. After she left, I ate slowly. The coffee was perfect, not too strong, not too weak. The toast was crispy, the fruit was fresh. Such simple things. But at William's house, I'd been eating whatever was left over, making do, grateful for scraps. My phone buzzed. Another text from William. Mom, please. We need to talk. This is getting out of control. Out of control. As if I was a problem to be managed. I turned off the phone and went to shower. Bobby's office was the dining room table. Papers spread across the surface. His laptop open coffee going cold in a mug that said World's Okayest Lawyer. He stood when I entered, professionally dressed now in slacks and a button-down shirt. Mrs. Harper, how did you sleep? Better than I have in years. Good. He gestured to a chair. We have things to discuss. Legal things. I want you to understand everything before we proceed. Sarah sat at the other end of the table with a notepad. Linda brought me fresh coffee and settled into a chair. First, Bobby said, I need to ask you some questions. They might be uncomfortable, but I need complete honesty to help you properly. I nodded, my hands wrapped around the warm mug. The money from your parents' house sale. You said it was $65,000. Yes, that's what their house sold for 8 years ago. And William told you it would go toward his down payment with your name added to the deed. I tried to remember the conversation. It had been shortly after my husband's funeral. I'd been grieving, not thinking clearly. He said it made sense to pool our resources, that I'd be living there anyway, that it would be our house together. Did you sign anything, any contract or agreement? I thought hard. No, just a handwritten note he gave me. A sort of IOU, I suppose. Bobby's eyes sharpened. Do you still have it? Maybe. In my old papers. I'd left most things at William's house, but some documents I'd kept with me. Let me check my suitcase. I retrieved the old manila envelope I'd packed. Inside were birth certificates, my marriage license, and yes, a piece of paper in William's handwriting. Mom, received $65,000 from sale of grandparents' house. We'll use for down payment on family home. You'll have a room and a stake in the property. Love you. William. It was dated 8 years ago, signed by him but not witnessed. Bobby photographed it with his phone. This is good. This is very good. Why? Because it proves intent. He promised you equity in the house. Did he follow through? I don't know. I never saw the deed. We'll find out. Bobby made notes. What about your Social Security? It goes into a joint account. William said it was easier for managing household expenses. Do you have access to that account? Can you withdraw money when you need it? I hesitated. I have a debit card, but Emily monitors the spending. She said I needed to be mindful about purchases, that we were all sharing resources. Did you agree to this arrangement in writing? No, William just set it up and gave me the card. Bobby's jaw tightened. Mrs. Harper, without your explicit written consent, that account should be in your name only. He had no legal right to redirect your federal benefits. But he's my son. That doesn't give him the right to control your money. Bobby leaned forward. How much is your monthly Social Security? About $1,800. And how much of that have you been able to spend on yourself over the past 3 years? I thought about it. Really thought about it. The clothes I'd needed but didn't buy. The book club I'd wanted to join but couldn't afford. The birthday gifts for my grandsons that Emily had purchased and I'd reimbursed her for. Maybe $200 a month for personal items. Linda made a sound. Sarah's pen stopped moving. 200 out of 1,800, Bobby said quietly. Where did the rest go? Household expenses. That's what William said. What household expenses? Be specific. I tried to remember the statements I'd seen. Groceries, utilities, the mortgage payment. You were paying part of their mortgage? When he said it like that, it sounded wrong. William said since I lived there, it was fair. Mrs. Harper. Bobby's voice was gentle but firm. You weren't a tenant. You were family. Family living with family. Did he charge his sons rent? Of course not. They're children. Exactly. Children are dependents. You're an adult who contributed to the down payment and was promised equity. You shouldn't have been paying rent disguised as household expenses. The reality was sinking in. Slowly, painfully. What about the house in Millbrook? Sarah asked. Your parents' place. I pulled out the deed. It's been empty for 8 years. There's a property management company that maintains it. I've been paying them $150 a month out of the money William gave me access to. Bobby examined the deed. This is in your name only. Good. Has it been rented out at all? I don't think so. The management company would have told me. Can I contact them? Get the full records? I gave him the information. He made the call right there, putting it on speaker. Millbrook Property Management, this is Janet speaking. Good morning, Janet. My name is Robert Sullivan. I'm calling regarding the property at 4-12 Maple Street. My client Elizabeth Harper owns it. Oh yes, the Harper property. How can I help? Can you confirm the rental history for the past 8 years? Papers rustled. Let me pull that up. Okay, here we are. The property was rented from January 2018 through March 2023. 5 years, 2 months. My heart stopped. I'm sorry, I said, my voice shaking. Did you say it was rented? Yes, ma'am. To a series of tenants. Very nice people. We deposited the rent into the account on file monthly. What account? Bobby asked. The one provided by Mrs. Harper's son, William Harper. He said he was managing her affairs. We send the deposits there $1.02 a month. The room spun. $1.02 a month. For 5 years and 2 months. That was... I couldn't do the math. My mind wouldn't work. That's $75,600, Sarah said quietly, reading my thoughts. Bobby's expression had gone very still, very cold. Janet, he said carefully, can you email me the complete rental history and deposit records, including the account information where the money was sent? Of course, may I have your email? He provided it. Thank you for your help. After he hung up, silence filled the room. He told me the house was empty, I finally said. He said it needed too much work to rent, that we should probably sell it eventually, but not now. He lied, Linda said bluntly. He's been collecting your rental income for over 5 years. The number kept echoing in my head. $75,600, combined with the $65,000 I'd given for the down payment William had. What taken $140,600 from me? I think I'm going to be sick, I whispered. Linda was there immediately, hand on my back. Breathe, just breathe. My son, I said. My son stole from me. Yes, Bobby said. No sugarcoating, no softening. He did. The email arrived 20 minutes later. Bobby printed everything while I sat in shock. The rental history was detailed. Tenant names, lease dates, monthly rent amounts, and most damning bank account information. The deposits had gone to an account in William's name, not a joint account. His alone. This is fraud, Bobby said, his lawyer voice fully engaged now. Clear documented financial exploitation of an elderly person. This isn't a gray area. This is criminal. I can't prosecute my own son. You don't have to, but you need to know your options. He spread the papers in front of me. Mrs. Harper, with this evidence, we can 1, demand full repayment of all funds, the $65,000 plus the rental income. 2, file a complaint with Adult Protective Services for financial exploitation. 3, pursue criminal charges for fraud and elder abuse. Or 4, use the threat of these actions to negotiate a settlement that protects you going forward. What would you recommend? Honestly, I'd recommend all of the above, but I understand this is your son. So at minimum, we need option 4. We need to get your money back and ensure you're never put in this position again. My phone, which I'd turned back on, buzzed. William again. Mom, whoever this lawyer is, he's lying to you. We can prove we used your money appropriately. Please come home so we can show you the records. I showed the text to Bobby. He smiled grimly. He's scared. Good. May I respond on your behalf? What would you say? He took my phone and typed, "This is Robert Sullivan, Mrs. Harper's legal counsel. All communication should now go through me. My number is below. Mrs. Harper will not be responding to your messages. If you have financial records to share, please send them to my office." He added his contact information and showed me before sending. "Is that too harsh?" I asked. "It's professional. It sets boundaries. And it puts him on notice that this isn't going away." The response came within 30 seconds. "Who the hell are you? You can't keep me from talking to my own mother." Bobby's response: "I'm not keeping you from anything. Mrs. Harper is choosing not to engage with you at this time. If you wish to contest the allegations of financial exploitation, please provide 1 deed showing Mrs. Harper's ownership stake in your property, 2 complete accounting of her Social Security deposits and usage, 3 explanation for rental income from Millbrook property deposited into your personal account. You have 14 business days to comply." My phone immediately rang. "William." I stared at it, paralyzed. "You don't have to answer," Linda said gently. "But he's my son. He's a grown man who stole from his mother." Sarah said, her voice harder than I'd heard it. "He doesn't get instant access just because he's panicking." The call went to voicemail. Then another call, another voicemail. After the third, Bobby said, "May I listen to them? It might be relevant to your case." I nodded numb. He put the phone on speaker and played the first voicemail. "Mom, please pick up. I don't know what this guy told you, but it's not what it looks like. The rental money, I was saving it for you. I was going to surprise you. Please just come home and let me explain." The second, "Mom, you're making this so much worse. Emily's upset. The boys are asking where Grandma went. You're tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding." The third made me flinch. "Fine. You want to do this? We'll do it. But remember who took care of you when Dad died. Remember who gave you a home when you had nowhere to go. Remember that before you let some stranger turn you against your own family." "Some stranger?" Bobby repeated softly. "The same stranger who's the reason I'm not dead or in prison right now." The irony wasn't lost on me. Bobby, a child I'd helped decades ago, was now protecting me from my own child. "What do I do?" I asked helplessly. "You rest. You process. You let me handle the legal aspects." Bobby's voice softened. "Mrs. Harper, I know this is devastating. I know you love your son, but love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean letting him steal from you." "He's gambling," a voice said. We all turned. Linda stood in the doorway. "What?" I asked. "Your son. He's gambling. I'd bet my nursing license on it." She came closer. "I've worked with addiction patients for 30 years. The pattern is classic. The lies, the missing money, the desperate need for control. He's probably been gambling for years." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. William's mood swings, the stress he'd blamed on work, the way he'd gotten so controlling about money. The time 2 years ago when he'd asked to borrow $5,000 from me for an investment, and I'd given it to him, and he'd never mentioned it again. "Oh my God," I whispered. "It doesn't excuse what he did," Bobby said. "But it explains it. And if I'm right, Mrs. Harper, your son needs help. Real help, not just for the theft, but for himself." "What kind of help?" "Treatment, therapy, Gamblers Anonymous." He paused. "But first, he needs to face consequences. Addicts don't change until they hit bottom. Your enabling, and I say this gently, isn't helping him." Enabling. The word stung. But was he right? Had I been so desperate to keep the peace to stay in my son's life that I'd allowed him to destroy both of us? The knock on the door came at 2 p.m. Bobby answered it, then his voice went cold. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Elizabeth." A woman's voice. Familiar. Emily. My heart lurched. Bobby glanced back at me. I nodded. Emily walked in, and I almost didn't recognize her. No designer clothes today, just jeans and a sweatshirt. Her hair was in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Elizabeth." She stopped a few feet away. "Can we talk alone?" Bobby opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "It's okay. I'll be right outside," he said, giving Emily a look that could freeze water. After everyone left, Emily and I sat in the living room. The silence stretched between us. "I know what you think of me," Emily finally said, "and you're probably right to think it." "What do I think of you?" That I'm a gold-digging bitch who married your son for his money and has been trying to get rid of you for years. The bluntness shocked me. I never said, you didn't have to. I could see it in your eyes. She twisted her hands together. And the thing is, part of it's true. Not the gold-digging part, William didn't have money when we met. But the rest. She took a shaky breath. I grew up in a trailer park in Kentucky. My mom was a single parent who worked 3 jobs. We had nothing. I wore clothes from Goodwill and ate at school because that was the only place I got real meals. This wasn't what I'd expected. I stayed quiet. When I met William, he was this successful guy with a good job and a nice apartment. He took me to restaurants where I didn't know which fork to use. He introduced me to people who had college degrees and retirement accounts. She looked at me directly for the first time. I was terrified of losing it all. Terrified of going back to that trailer park. So I tried to make everything perfect. The right house, the right clothes, the right friends. Her voice cracked. And when you moved in, I saw you as a threat to that perfection. A threat? You reminded William of a simpler time, of values I didn't understand, of the idea that family matters more than appearances. She wiped her eyes. I was jealous. You had his love automatically. I had to earn everything. I didn't know what to say. I'm not excusing what I did, Emily continued. The nursing home idea that was mine. I told William we needed the space needed to reduce expenses. I pushed him to agree. Why? Because I didn't know about the gambling. Her voice dropped. I swear to God, Elizabeth, I didn't know. I knew we were tight on money, but William said it was the economy, the mortgage, normal stuff. I didn't know he'd been hiding things from both of us. The rental income from my house, I found out this morning. William confessed after your lawyer's email. He's been taking that money and using it to cover gambling debts. She laughed bitterly. Turns out we're not rich. We're drowning. The house is underwater. We've refinanced twice. We're $140,000 in debt. The number made me dizzy. I'm leaving him, Emily said flatly. I filed for divorce this morning. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's fine while he destroys us. The boys will be better off with an honest, struggling mother than in this toxic mess. She stood. I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness. I came to tell you the truth, and to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry I treated you like garbage. I'm sorry I pushed for the nursing home. I'm sorry I was too insecure to see what I was doing. She walked toward the door, then paused. One more thing. William's coming here. I couldn't stop him. He's desperate and scared, and I don't know what he'll do. Be careful. After she left, I sat in stunned silence. Bobby came back in. You okay? I don't know. Emily just told me she's divorcing William, that he has $140,000 in gambling debt, that he's been lying to everyone. Does that change how you feel? Did it? I thought about my son, the little boy I'd raised alone after his father died, the teenager who'd studied so hard to get scholarships, the young man who'd been so excited to buy his first house. When had he become someone who could steal from his own mother? It makes me sad, I said finally. Sad that he's in so much pain. But no, it doesn't change what he did. It just explains it. Good, Bobby nodded approvingly. Explanation is an excuse. Remember that. The knock came an hour later, harder than Emily's, desperate. Bobby opened the door to reveal William. My son looked terrible. He'd aged 10 years overnight. His clothes were wrinkled. His eyes were wild. Mom, he pushed past Bobby. Mom, please. We need to talk. I stood, my heart breaking and hardening at the same time. Hello, William. Bobby insisted on being present. William didn't like it, but he was in no position to argue. We sat in the living room, me on the couch, William in the chair across from me, Bobby standing near the door like a guardian. Mom, I'm so sorry. William's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. For what specifically? The question seemed to surprise him. For everything. For the nursing home, for Emily, for stealing from me. He flinched. I wasn't stealing. I was managing William. Bobby's voice cut through. Don't insult your mother's intelligence by lying right now. William's face crumpled. Okay, yes, I took the rental money, but I was going to pay it back. I swear I was going to. When? I asked. When were you going to tell me about $75,600 in rental income you collected over 5 years? I had debts. Gambling debts. He froze. Emily told you? Yes, $140,000 in debt. William, how did this happen? He buried his face in his hands. For a long moment, he just sat there shaking. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red. It started 4 years ago. I was passed over for a promotion. Some younger guy got it. I felt like a failure. He laughed bitterly. So I went to a casino to blow off steam. Won $500. It felt amazing. Like I was in control of something. So you kept going. Yeah, and I kept winning. For a while. Paid off our credit cards. Bought Emily that car she wanted. Felt like a hero. He paused. Then I started losing. But I thought if I just played a little more, I'd win it back. Classic gambler's fallacy, right? How much did you lose in total over 3 years? Maybe $200,000. I couldn't breathe. I refinanced the house twice to cover it. Took cash advances on credit cards. And when I saw the rental income from your house coming in, he couldn't finish. You took it. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd hit big and pay you back double. I'd give you this amazing surprise. He laughed a broken sound. Instead, I lost it all, and more. And the nursing home plan, that was Emily's idea initially, but I agreed because I thought if we didn't have to support you, I'd have more money to gamble with, to try to win it all back. He looked at me. I'm sick, Mom. I know that now. I need help. Yes, you do. I've already called Gamblers Anonymous. I'm going to my first meeting tomorrow. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm going to fix this. Bobby spoke up. That's good, William. That's a start. But it doesn't change what you owe your mother. William turned to him. I know. I'll sell the house. Pay her back every penny. It'll take time, but Not good enough, Bobby said. We need legal guarantees, a payment plan, collateral. Your mother isn't going to just trust your word anymore. I'm her son, who stole from her, who lied to her, who tried to institutionalize her to cover his debts. Bobby's voice was steel. You've lost the benefit of the doubt, William. Now you need to earn back trust through action. William looked at me pleading. Mom, please. Tell him you forgive me. Tell him we can work this out as a family. And here was the moment. The choice I had to make. Part of me wanted to fold. To say of course I forgave him. To make this all go away so we could be a family again. But I thought about Emily's cold voice saying I was useless. About 3 years of invisibility. About $140 600 stolen. About the nursing home I hadn't chosen. I thought about the bus station. About Sarah's kindness. About Bobby spending 30 years trying to thank me for shoes and a phone call. I thought about what I deserved. I love you, William, I said quietly. You're my son. Nothing will change that. His face brightened with hope. But love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean letting you treat me like a burden in a bank account. The hope died. I'm not coming back to your house. I'm not going to smooth this over and pretend it didn't happen. You stole from me. You lied to me. You tried to put me away like garbage. Mom, I'm not finished. My voice was stronger now. You need help. Real help. For the gambling for whatever made you think this was acceptable. And while you get that help, we're going to have legal agreements in place. I looked at Bobby. What do we need? A settlement agreement, Bobby said. William sells the house, pays you back the full $140 600 the down payment plus the rental income with interest. He enters a treatment program and completes it. He provides monthly financial statements for 2 years. And he agrees that you are not and never will be financially dependent on him. That's insane, William protested. The house won't sell for enough to pay her back and cover my debts. I'll be bankrupt. Then you'll be bankrupt, Bobby said calmly. These are the consequences of your choices. William looked at me desperately. Mom, please. You can't do this to me, to your grandchildren. They'll lose their home. And there it was. The guilt trip, the manipulation. The old Elizabeth would have crumbled. But I wasn't her anymore. You did this, I said. Not me. You gambled away the house. You stole from me. You made these choices. Now you live with them. What about Jackson and Lucas? What about your grandsons? What about them? You were willing to throw their grandmother into a nursing home to free up money for gambling. Did you think about them then? He had no answer. I love those boys, I continued, and I hope to have a relationship with them someday. But that's separate from this. You don't get to use them as shields. Bobby pulled out a document. This is a draft settlement agreement. Take it to your lawyer. You have until January 14th to sign it, or we pursue formal legal action. William took the papers with shaking hands. He looked at me one more time. I'm your son. I know, and I'm your mother, the mother you betrayed. I stood. When you've completed treatment, when you've made real progress, when you've started paying me back, then we can talk about rebuilding, but not before. You're really doing this. I really am. He left without another word. After the door closed, my legs gave out. I sat down hard and the tears came. Bobby sat beside me. That was the hardest thing you've ever done, wasn't it? Yes. You did it anyway. You set boundaries. You protected yourself. He put his arm around my shoulders. I'm proud of you. He's my baby, I sobbed. My little boy. He's a grown man who needs to face consequences. You did the right thing. I cried for what felt like hours, for the son I'd raised, for the family I'd lost, for the life I'd thought I had. But underneath the grief, something else was growing. Relief, freedom, strength. I'd stood up for myself, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, it had just begun. April brought warm sunshine to Millbrook. I stood in the kitchen of my parents' house, my house now watching light stream through new windows. The renovation was complete. Fresh paint, refinished floors, modern appliances. Bobby had helped me arrange a small loan from the trust fund my parents had left. The property management company had turned over all the maintenance records, showing the house had been well kept, despite my absence. It was beautiful. It was mine. And I was home. My phone rang, the weekly Wednesday call I'd agreed to. Hi, William. Hi, Mom. His voice was different now, humbler, tired. How are you? I'm good. How's treatment? Hard. Really hard. But I'm going to every meeting. The therapist says I'm making progress. This was our routine. 15 minutes every Wednesday. Polite, distant, honest. The house sold, he said. Closing is next week. That's good. Yeah, after debts there's enough to pay you back about $90,000. I'm setting up a payment plan for the rest. $500 a month for the next 8 years. Okay. Silence. Mom, I got a letter from Jackson today. My heart jumped. My grandsons. I hadn't seen them in 3 months. He asked about you. He misses you. I miss him too. He wants to know if maybe he and Lucas could visit you sometime. For Thanksgiving, maybe. Thanksgiving was 7 months away. We'll see, I said carefully. Okay, yeah. I understand. He paused. I'm getting better, Mom. I really am. Not for you, for me, but I want you to know. I'm glad. After we hung up, I stood in my sunny kitchen and felt something unfamiliar. Hope. Previously, I discovered my son William had stolen over $140,000 from me to cover gambling debts. With Bobby's help, I forced him to face consequences. 3 months later, I'm living in my parents' house in Millbrook, rebuilding my life. But the hardest part is still ahead. 6 months had passed since New Year's Eve. 6 months since I'd fled that party and found myself at a bus station crying into my hands. Now I stood in my garden in Millbrook, wearing dirt-stained jeans and a sun hat planting tomatoes. My back ached pleasantly. My hands were covered in soil. I was happier than I'd been in years. Elizabeth, you have a visitor. Dorothy's voice carried over the fence. My neighbor was 82, sharp as a tack, and had become my closest friend in Millbrook. She'd brought me a casserole my first week here, and asked exactly 0 prying questions until I was ready to talk. I wiped my hands on my jeans and walked around front. A car I didn't recognize sat in my driveway. Then Sarah stepped out grinning. Surprise as Sarah. I hugged her tight. What are you doing here? Dad sent me to check on you, and to bring you this. She held up a manila envelope. We settled on my porch with iced tea, a habit I'd developed sitting out here in the evenings watching the world go by. How's Bobby? I asked. Working too hard as usual, but happy. He talks about you all the time. Sarah smiled. You know he framed that kindergarten photo, the one from 1975. It's hanging in his office now, right next to his law degree. My throat tightened. He didn't have to do that. He wanted to. You're his hero, Mrs. Harper. Elizabeth, please call me Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth. She handed me the envelope. This is from Dad, the final paperwork from William's settlement. I opened it. Legal documents, payment schedules, and a cashier's check for $90,000. The house sold above asking, Sarah explained. After William paid his debts and Emily's divorce settlement, this is what's left for you. He's also set up automatic payments for the remaining $50, $600, $500 a month for the next 21 months. 8.5 years of payments, a constant reminder of what he'd done. How is he? I asked quietly. According to Dad's monitoring, he's actually doing the work. 6 months gambling free, going to GA 3 times a week, therapy twice a week. He got a new job teaching high school math. Teaching. That surprised me. Apparently, addiction counseling helped him realize he wanted to do something meaningful. The pay cut is brutal, but he seems different, humbler. I stared at the check. $90,000. It wasn't everything, but it was more than I'd expected. What will you do with it? Sarah asked. Live, I said simply. Just live. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon, I found an envelope in my mailbox. The handwriting was careful, childish. My heart skipped. I sat on the porch steps and opened it with shaking hands. Dear Grandma Elizabeth, Dad said I could write you. He said you might not want to hear from us because of what happened. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't talk to you more when you lived with us. Mom said you were busy and we shouldn't bother you. But I think she was wrong. I think we should have bothered you. I miss your cookies. I miss when you used to read to us before bed. I'm sorry I said your stories were boring. They weren't boring. I was just being mean because Tyler at school said grandmas were uncool. Lucas misses you too, but he's too shy to write. He keeps the picture of you and him at the zoo on his nightstand. He looks at it every night before bed. Dad is different now. He's sad a lot, but he's trying. He doesn't yell anymore. He plays games with us. Not gambling games, just regular games like Monopoly. He says he's sorry every single day. Can we see you sometime? We live in an apartment now. It's smaller than our old house, but it has a pool. Dad says maybe for Thanksgiving if you want to. He says only if you want to. He says we have to respect your boundaries. I learned that word, boundaries. It means not pushing people to do things they don't want. I'm sorry we didn't respect your boundaries before. Love, Jackson. P.S. Lucas drew you a picture. He's sick, so it's not very good, but he worked really hard on it. The picture was crayon on lined paper. 2 stick figures holding hands. One tall, one small. Hearts floating around them. In wobbly letters, I love Grandma. I sat on those porch steps and cried. Not from sadness, from longing, from the ache of missing 2 little boys I'd watched grow up for 3 years. Dorothy found me there 20 minutes later. What's wrong, dear? I showed her the letter. She read it slowly, her weathered hand trembling slightly. When she finished, she sat beside me. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to call right now and say yes. But part of me is terrified. Of what? Of being hurt again. Of William using the boys to manipulate me. Of being weak. Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then, can I tell you about my daughter? I nodded. Marcy and I didn't speak for 15 years. She married a man I didn't approve of. I said some things. She said some things. We both dug in our heels. What happened? He left her. She had 2 kids and no money. She called me crying, asking for help. Dorothy's eyes were distant. I almost said no. Almost. I was so angry, so hurt. But my grandbabies needed me. So you helped her. I did. Set boundaries just like you did. Helped with conditions. Made her get therapy, get a job, get her life together. She looked at me. Those 15 years, I can't get them back. I missed my grandkids being born. Missed first steps, first words, first days of school. Do you regret helping her? No, I regret wasting 15 years being stubborn. She patted my hand. I'm not saying forgive William right away. I'm saying those boys didn't do anything wrong. And if you can have a relationship with them without compromising yourself, maybe you should. I called Bobby that night. I got a letter from Jackson. I know. William asked if he could give the boys your address. I told him it was your choice. A pause. What did you decide? I want to see them. But I'm scared. Scared of what specifically? I thought about it. Scared that William will use them to guilt me into forgiving him before I'm ready. Scared that I'll cave, go back to being invisible, let everything slide. You won't. How do you know? Because you're not the same woman who ran away on New Year's Eve. You've built a life here. You have boundaries. You know your worth. His voice softened. But if you want to see your grandkids, we can make it happen on your terms. What would that look like? You invite the boys here, to Millbrook, for a weekend visit. William drops them off but doesn't stay. You have time with them without pressure. If William wants to join for a meal, he asks first. You're in control. Control. When was the last time I'd been in control of anything? Okay, I said. Let's do that. The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving were a blur of activity. I cleaned the house top to bottom, set up the guest room with twin beds for the boys, bought sheets with dinosaurs and spaceships, stocked the kitchen with ingredients for cookies and hot chocolate. Dorothy helped me plan activities. The library has a children's section, there's a park with a playground, and the movie theater in town does matinees. I'm nervous, I admitted. What if they don't remember me? What if I'm just some old lady to them now? You're their grandmother. They love you. That letter proves it. Bobby and Linda drove up the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Sarah came too, bringing her own kids, Carlos 9 and Maria 7. The kids wanted to meet you, Sarah explained. Dad's talked about you so much they think you're a celebrity. Carlos approached me seriously, hand extended. Mrs. Harper, it's nice to meet you. Dad says you're the bravest person he knows. He exaggerates. Dad doesn't exaggerate. He's a lawyer. He says lawyers have to tell the truth. Maria was less formal. She hugged my legs immediately. You're softer than Grandma Linda, and you smell like cookies. I've been baking, I admitted. That night my small house was full of laughter and warmth. We cooked dinner together, Bobby's famous chili, Linda's cornbread, Sarah's salad. The kids played in the yard until dark. At the table, Bobby raised his glass of apple cider. To new beginnings, to found families, to second chances. To Elizabeth, Linda added, who taught us all what real strength looks like. I looked around at these people who'd become my family, not through blood, but through kindness, through showing up. Thank you, I whispered. All of you. I don't know where I'd be without you. Probably on a bus to nowhere, Sarah joked gently. Good thing I was working that night. After dinner, Bobby pulled me aside. Tomorrow, William drops off the boys at 2 p.m. He's not expecting to be invited in, but if you want him to stay for Thanksgiving dinner, the offer is yours to make. I don't know if I'm ready. Then don't. The boys are what matter right now. William can wait. But could he? I thought about the letter Jackson had written. Dad is different now. He's sad a lot, but he's trying. Was I punishing William or protecting myself? Maybe both. Maybe that was okay. Friday afternoon, I stood at my front window like a nervous teenager before prom. Dorothy sat in my kitchen providing moral support. Breathe, dear. They're just children. They're my children, my grandbabies. What if? No what ifs, just be yourself. At 2:03 p.m., a car pulled into my driveway. William's car. Older, more modest than the luxury SUV he'd driven before. An apartment complex sticker on the windshield. The back doors opened. 2 boys tumbled out. Jackson was tall for 9, all legs and elbows. He wore jeans and a t-shirt with a dinosaur on it. Lucas was smaller, 6 years old, clutching a stuffed bear I didn't recognize. They looked uncertain, scared. William stayed by the car, not approaching. I walked out onto the porch. Boys? Grandma? Lucas dropped his bear and ran. Just ran straight into my arms. I knelt and caught him breathing in the scent of children's shampoo and graham crackers. He was heavier than I remembered. Bigger. I missed you, he sobbed into my shoulder. I missed you so much. I missed you too, sweetheart. Jackson approached more slowly. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Jackson. I held out one arm while keeping the other around Lucas. He hesitated, then stepped into the hug. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry we let you leave. Oh, honey, that wasn't your fault. Not even a little bit. Dad said it was his fault. He said he's the one who messed up. Over their heads, I saw William. He was watching us. His face twisted with emotion. He looked thin, older. The expensive watch was gone. So were the designer clothes. He raised one hand in a tentative wave. I nodded back. Acknowledgement, not invitation. He understood. Got back in his car and drove away. Friday evening was cautious. The boys explored this house, marveling at their room. We each get our own bed, Lucas asked. You each get your own everything. Your own drawer, your own shelf, your own space. At Dad's apartment we share a room, Jackson explained. It's okay, but Lucas snores. I do not do too. The familiar bickering made me smile. We made pizza from scratch, something I'd never been allowed to do at William's house. Too messy, Emily had said. Too chaotic. But here in my kitchen we spread sauce and sprinkled cheese and laughed when Lucas dropped a pepperoni on the floor. 5-second rule, he shouted, picking it up. Lucas Gross, what Grandma's floor is clean. At bedtime I read to them from an old book I'd found in the attic. The Chronicles of Narnia. My husband had read it to William when he was their age. Lucas fell asleep halfway through the second chapter, his head on my shoulder. Jackson stayed awake. When I finished the chapter, he said quietly, Dad's different now. Sarah told me he's working hard. He is. He cries a lot. Talks about how he messed up. Jackson picked at the blanket. He asks about you. If I think you'll ever forgive him. What do you tell him? I don't know. Will you? The question hung in the air. How did I explain adult complications to a 9-year-old? I don't know yet, honey. What your dad did hurt me very much, and trust takes time to rebuild. But you still love him, right? He's still your son. Always. But love doesn't mean pretending bad things didn't happen. Jackson nodded slowly. Like when Lucas broke my Lego set and said sorry, but I was still mad for a while. Exactly like that. Except bigger. Way bigger, Jackson agreed. Dad stole money. That's like really bad. The bluntness of children. Refreshing and painful at once. Saturday was better. We went to the library where I introduced them to Mrs. Patterson, the librarian. She showed them the children's section and let them each pick 5 books. We had lunch at the diner, burgers and milkshakes. The owner, Frank, remembered me from when I was young. Elizabeth Harper, haven't seen you in decades. These your grandboys? They are, Jackson and Lucas. Fine-looking boys. You want the usual? I laughed. I haven't ordered the usual since 1985, Frank. Chocolate shake, extra whipped cream cherry on top. That was my usual. Every Saturday with your folks, you'd sit right at that counter reading your library books, drinking your shake. Jackson's eyes went wide. You came here when you were a kid. I grew up in this town. This was my parents' house before it was mine. Somehow that mattered to them, that I had history here. Roots. That afternoon we baked cookies, chocolate chip oatmeal raisin, and Lucas's special creation peanut butter with M&Ms and way too much sugar. Dorothy came over for coffee and met the boys. She'd brought her famous apple pie. You must be the grandsons Elizabeth won't stop talking about, she said. She talks about us, Lucas asked. All the time. Jackson loves dinosaurs. Lucas is good at math. They're such smart, sweet boys. Dorothy winked at me. By Saturday evening, the awkwardness had melted away. We were comfortable. Easy. At bedtime, Jackson asked, Can we come back? Not just for holidays. Like maybe once a month. I'd love that. And can we call you like during the week? Anytime you want. Lucas, already half asleep, mumbled, Love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. After they were asleep, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea. My phone rang. William. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello, William. Hi, Mom. His voice was thick. How are the boys? They're wonderful. Asleep now. Good. That's good. A pause. Thank you. For having them. For not shutting them out because of what I did. They're my grandsons. I could never shut them out. I know I don't deserve to ask, but would it be okay if I came tomorrow for Thanksgiving dinner just for a few hours? I wouldn't stay, wouldn't push. I just want to be with my family. There it was, the request I'd been expecting. Bobby and his family are coming, I said. Sarah, her kids, Dorothy. It's not going to be just us. I don't mind. I'd just like to be there, to see you, his voice broke, to sit at a table with my mother and my sons and maybe remember what it feels like to be part of something good. I closed my eyes. 6 months ago, he'd stood in my room at his house and agreed when Emily said I was useless. Now he was begging for a seat at my table. 2 o'clock, I said finally. Dinner's at 3. You can stay until 6, then you take the boys home. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so. William, this doesn't mean everything's okay. This doesn't mean I forgive you or trust you. This means I'm willing to try. For your sons. For the family we might be able to rebuild someday. I understand. I'll take what I can get. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness and wondered if I'd made the right choice. Dorothy's voice drifted from the kitchen. She'd let herself in through the back door. You invited him, didn't you? How did you know? Because you're a mother, and mothers always hope. She sat beside me. But you set boundaries. You made it clear this is on your terms. That's what matters. What if he disappoints me again? Then you'll handle it. You're not the same woman who ran away on New Year's Eve. You're stronger now. Was I? Or was I just fooling myself? I guess I'd find out tomorrow. I woke at 6 and couldn't go back to sleep. Bobby and his family arrived at noon to help cook. Linda took over the turkey. Sarah made stuffing. I worked on pies with Dorothy. The boys helped Carlos and Maria set the table. For 12 people. The house buzzed with activity and laughter. Grandma, where should the forks go? Grandma, can we use the fancy napkins? Grandma Maria says girls are smarter than boys, and I said that's not true, right? I was needed, wanted, visible. At 2:00 p.m. exactly, the doorbell rang. Everyone went quiet. The boys looked at me. I opened the door. William stood there holding flowers, grocery store flowers, not expensive ones, and a pie that was clearly store-bought. Hi, Mom. William, come in. He stepped inside and stopped, stared at the full house, at Bobby and his family, at Dorothy. I didn't realize it would be such a crowd. I told you we had company. Right, yes, you did. He held out the flowers and pie. These are for you. The pie's probably not as good as yours, but thank you. Bobby approached, hand extended. William, I'm Robert Sullivan. I know who you are. William shook his hand. You're my mother's lawyer, and apparently her guardian angel. Just her friend, and her advocate when she needs one. The two men sized each other up. William was taller, but Bobby had a quiet strength that made him seem larger. Dad, Lucas ran over and hugged William's legs. We made cookies and went to the library, and Grandma has a room just for us. That sounds wonderful, buddy. Jackson was more reserved. Hi, Dad. Hey, Jackson. William ruffled his hair. You guys being good? The best, I said. They're always welcome here. The emphasis on they wasn't lost on William. His smile faltered. Dinner was both wonderful and awkward. We squeezed everyone around my dining table. I sat at one end, Bobby at the other. William ended up between his sons, looking small and out of place. Before we ate, Bobby said, I think we should all share something we're thankful for. Oh no, I could see where this was going. Linda started. I'm thankful for my family, for health, for second chances. Sarah. I'm thankful we found Elizabeth, that Dad's search finally ended. The kids went next, saying things like video games and pizza and making everyone laugh. Dorothy. I'm thankful for new friends and old houses full of love. Jackson surprised everyone. I'm thankful that Grandma gave Dad another chance, even though he messed up really bad. Silence. Lucas. I'm thankful for Grandma's cookies. Everyone laughed, tension broken. Then it was William's turn. He set down his fork, hands shaking slightly. I'm thankful that my mother is still alive, that I didn't lose her completely because of my mistakes. His voice cracked. I'm thankful for the chance to sit at this table, and I'm thankful that she's teaching me what real strength looks like. More silence. Finally, my turn. I looked around the table. At Bobby, who'd spent 30 years trying to thank me for shoes. At Sarah, who'd recognized me in a bus station. At Linda and Dorothy and the kids. At my grandsons, who still loved me. At my son, who was broken but trying. I'm thankful for new beginnings, I said. For the courage to run away and the courage to stay. For learning that I'm worth more than I thought. And for family, both the one I was born into and the one I found. Bobby raised his glass. To Elizabeth. To Grandma, the kids chorused. We ate. The food was good, maybe the best Thanksgiving meal I'd had in years. Not because of the cooking, but because of the company. After dessert, William helped with dishes. We worked side by side in silence for a few minutes. The house looks good, he finally said. You've made it really nice. Thank you. And the boys seem happy, really happy. They're good kids. Because of you. You raised me and I raised them with the values you taught me, even though I lost my way for a while. I didn't respond, just kept washing dishes. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know that. But I want you to know I'm trying. Every day. GA meetings, therapy, the payment plan. I'm not gambling. I'm living in a tiny apartment and driving a 10-year-old car and eating ramen most nights, but I'm doing it clean. Good. And I'm teaching. Kids who need someone to believe in them. I think about you a lot. About how you believed in your students. How you helped Bobby when his own parents couldn't. I'm trying to be that for someone else. I set down the dish I was washing and looked at him. Really looked at him. He'd lost weight. His clothes were from Target, not department stores. His watch was a $20 Timex. He looked tired and scared and humble. He looked like someone who'd hit bottom and was climbing back up. I'm proud of you for getting help, I said quietly. For facing what you did. That takes courage. I learned from you. No, you learned from consequences. You learned from losing everything and realizing it mattered. He nodded, eyes wet. I did. And Mom, I know we're not okay. I know I have years of proving myself ahead. But thank you. Thank you for today. For letting me be part of this. William, I took a breath. I love you. You're my son. But we have a long road ahead before we're truly okay. This dinner, it's a start, not a finish. I'll take it. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. At 6 o'clock as promised, William gathered the boys to leave. Do we have to go? Lucas whined. Yes, buddy. We have school Monday, and Grandma needs her rest. Jackson hugged me tight. Can we come back next month? Absolutely. You can come once a month if your dad agrees. He will. Right, Dad? William looked at me. If your grandmother says it's okay, then yes. After they left, I collapsed on the couch. Bobby sat beside me. How do you feel? Exhausted, hopeful, scared, grateful. I laughed. All of it at once. That's healthy. That means you're not pretending everything's perfect. You're living in reality. Is this crazy letting him back in? You're not letting him all the way back in. You're opening the door a crack, letting him prove himself. That's smart, not crazy. Linda brought me tea. For what it's worth, I watched him today. He's not faking. That's real remorse, real change. It doesn't mean you have to trust him tomorrow, but it means there's hope. Sarah added, and even if William never fully earns your trust back, you have the boys. You have us. You have this life you've built. They were right. My life didn't depend on William anymore. It was mine. Fully, completely mine. November again. The second Thanksgiving in my house. So much had changed. William had been gambling free for 18 months. He'd completed his treatment program and was now sponsoring others in GA. He'd paid me back $96,000 so far, the initial settlement plus 6 months of his payment plan. He was dating someone, a woman named Patricia who taught at his school. She was kind, quiet, and didn't take any nonsense. I'd met her twice and liked her. Emily had remarried and moved to Arizona. The boys saw her during summer vacation, but they lived primarily with William. They visited me 1 weekend a month, and we talked on the phone twice a week. Jackson was doing well in school. Lucas had started taking piano lessons. They were growing up so fast. Bobby had officially retired as my lawyer once the settlement was complete. But he and Linda visited every few months, and we talked weekly. Sarah had become like a daughter to me. She brought her kids to visit, and we'd formed our own little tradition. The first Sunday of every month we'd have brunch together. Dorothy and I were inseparable. We'd started a book club in town, played bridge every Wednesday, volunteered at the library together. I'd joined the community garden, made friends, built a life that was rich and full, and mine. This Thanksgiving was bigger than last year. 18 people crammed into my house. William and Patricia, the boys, Bobby's entire family, Dorothy and her son who'd reconciled after hearing my story, Sarah's family, and 3 new friends from my book club. At the table we went around again, sharing gratitude. When it was my turn, I stood. Last year I said I was thankful for new beginnings. This year I'm thankful for growth, for healing, for learning that it's never too late to start over. I looked at William. I'm thankful that my son is working every day to be better, that he's teaching his sons about accountability and change. I looked at Bobby. I'm thankful for a little boy I helped 46 years ago who grew up to save me when I needed it most. I looked at my grandsons. I'm thankful for 2 boys who remind me what unconditional love looks like. I looked around my full table. And I'm thankful for every person here, for showing me that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up. It's about love in action. Bobby stood. To Elizabeth, who taught us all what real courage looks like. To Grandma. To Mom. To Elizabeth. After dinner, William asked to speak with me privately. We sat on the porch, the November air crisp, but not too cold. Mom, I need to tell you something. My stomach clenched. What the? I've paid off most of my debts. I'll have your full settlement paid within 3 more years instead of 8. And I wanted to ask... He pulled out an envelope. This is a deed to the house Emily and I owned. It sold a year ago, remember? I remember. What I didn't tell you is that there was equity left over after everything. About $30,000. It's yours. It was your money that made the down payment. This is just returning what was always yours. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a check for $30,000. William, I can't. You can. It's yours. Legally, morally, every way. He smiled sadly. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness, Mom. I'm trying to make things right. There's a difference. I stared at the check. Combined with what I'd already received, this brought me to $126,000 recovered. Still $14,600 short of the full amount, but close. Thank you, I said quietly. Thank you for not giving up on me, for letting me be part of your life again, for showing the boys what strength and grace look like. We sat in silence for a moment. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you forgive me? The question I'd been dreading and expecting in equal measure. Did I forgive him? After everything he'd done, I thought about the past year, the weekly phone calls, the monthly visits with the boys, the steady payments, the real change I'd witnessed. I thought about the William I'd raised versus the William who'd stolen from me versus the William sitting beside me now. I'm working on it, I said honestly. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, William. It's a process. Some days I'm closer than others. Some days I'm still angry, but I'm trying. That's all I can ask. But I can tell you this, I'm proud of you. For facing your addiction. For being honest with your sons. For doing the work even when it's hard. That takes real courage. His eyes filled with tears. I learned it from you. No, you learned it from hitting bottom and choosing to climb back up. I just showed you it was possible. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. We sat together as the sun set over Millbrook. My town, my home, my life. Inside I could hear laughter, the kids playing, Bobby telling stories, Linda organizing leftovers, Dorothy arguing good-naturedly with her son about politics. This was my family now, not the one I'd imagined a year ago. Better, messier, more real. I'd run away on New Year's Eve thinking my life was over. Instead, it had just begun. I stood in the kindergarten classroom at Millbrook Elementary, surrounded by 5-year-olds with paint-covered hands and gap-toothed smiles. Mrs. Harper, look what I made. That's beautiful, Sophie. Tell me about it. It's my family, that's Mommy and Daddy and my baby brother and Patches the dog. At 77, I'd come out of retirement. Not full-time, just 2 days a week as a teacher's aide. Helping with reading groups, supervising art projects, being an extra pair of hands. Being exactly where I was meant to be. The principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, poked her head in. Elizabeth, you have visitors. I walked to the office to find Jackson and Lucas waiting with William. Grandma! They hugged me, nearly knocking me over. They were so big now, Jackson almost 12, Lucas 9. What are you doing here? It's a school day. Teacher in service day, Jackson explained. Dad's off too, so we thought we'd surprise you. We're taking you to lunch, William added. If you're free? Let me just grab my purse. We went to Frank's Diner, our regular spot now. Over burgers, Jackson said, Grandma, I have to tell you something. I got my grades and I made honor roll. Jackson, that's wonderful, Lucas chimed in. And I won the science fair. My volcano was the best one. They talked over each other, excited, happy, normal kids. William watched them with a smile, then looked at me. How are you, Mom? I'm good. Really good. Still loving the teaching. More than I can say. Mrs. Rodriguez asked if I'd consider coming back 3 days a week next year. Will you? I'm thinking about it. We ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Then William said, Patricia and I are getting married. My heart jumped. William, that's wonderful. When June. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. He paused. We'd like you to be there. Patricia wants you to sit in the mother of the groom seat. I'd be honored. And Mom, I wanted to ask, would you do a reading during the ceremony? Something about love and second chances. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I would love to. After lunch, William drove me back to school. Before I got out, he said, Mom, I finished paying you back. The last payment went through yesterday. The full amount. Every penny. $140, $600 plus interest. It's all back in your account. William, I know it doesn't erase what I did. I know I can't buy back the time or the trust, but it's a step. It's me proving I meant what I said. I know you did, and I'm proud of you. That evening, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and my phone. I called Bobby. Hey, Mrs. Harper, how are you? I'm wonderful, and Bobby, I have a favor to ask. Anything. I want to start a scholarship fund for kids from low-income families to help with school supplies, clothes, whatever they need. Like what you did for me. Exactly like that, but bigger. I have money now more than I need. I want to use it to help kids who need someone to see them. I think that's a beautiful idea. How much are you thinking of $50,000 to start? Enough to help maybe 20 kids a year. Mrs. Harper, that's incredibly generous. It's what I should have been doing all along. I spent 3 years making myself small, trying not to be a burden. Now I'm going to spend the rest of my life being as big as possible, helping as many people as I can. Just like you always have. No, before I helped quietly, secretly. Now I'm doing it loudly, proudly, because I'm done being invisible. After we hung up, I sat in the evening quiet and thought about the past 2 years. I'd lost a family and found a bigger one. I'd been betrayed and learned to set boundaries. I'd run away and discovered I was running towards something not just from it. I'd been told I was useless and proven I was invaluable. On New Year's Eve 2 years ago, Emily had said I was too old to be useful. She'd been wrong. I was just getting started.